All right, let's talk about people responsible for why we are where we are. You wanted to start with the manager. I want to talk about the team. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, Bob Melvin. I mean, what a special guy he is, isn't he? I mean, he's from Palo Alto, kind of up from the neck of woods where I was from. But he's like they always say, he's the calm influence, the slow and steady guy. But you saw him in the game; he was fired up. He was rooting on his guys. But I just love the way that he is so supportive of players like Trent Grisham when they've gone through those tough stretches. He's always been there, and he believes in his guys.
I think Bob Melvin, and we said this when he was hired, and I wrote about it extensively on our website, that Bob Melvin is not going to see anything in the Padre dugout that he's not seen before in other places, whether that's Oakland or prior to that, as a manager, as a bench coach, and as a player. He's a baseball lifer. So anything that's going on with Bob Melvin now, he's visited before. He knows how to respond and react. He can be tough on his team when he needs to be tough on his team. There have been lone exceptions where he's had to invoke that card. But John, he's hit the right buttons, and I think that's the correct term. Who do you play, when you play them, how you use them, etc. And the reason the Padres won at Citi Field in New York is because guys at the bottom of the batting order bailed out the guys at the top of the batting order who were not producing. The bottom of the batting order, led by Trent Grisham, who came out of the doldrums, he was hitting 080 over a 3 or 4 week span. And then he gets red hot, hits 2 home runs, drives in runs, is on base. Trent Grisham made a big difference. In the bottom of the order, Cronenworth started to make a difference, and the catcher, Austin Nola, started to make a difference. Now, suddenly, that's a very good team. So he's been able to message to the guys in the dugout, on the bench, in the clubhouse, in the lineup, this is what we're going to do. And these guys have responded very positively. I think the other factor, and I guess this is an intangible, I don't think the Padres fear the Dodgers anymore. The win in New York when they beat up Max Scherzer and then followed that by winning Game 3 against Chris Bassett. When they did that, I think it just infused enormous confidence on this Padre team that they can compete with anybody. And of course, I've said philosophically, John, good pitching beats good hitting. And for the most part, the Padres have gotten great starting pitching. And this bullpen has been spectacular. Mets series has now been transferred to Dodger Stadium. What those guys coming out of the pen have done, this is suddenly, emotionally, I think, a very different team. And it's just not Manny Machado leading the way. It's suddenly that whole 25, 26-man roster that's contributing.
Yeah, it seems like they've had this potential that they've never lived up to during the regular season. As fans, we were always frustrated, but it's all coming together now. And like you say, Melvin's pushing the right buttons because he's got to kind of manage the rotation of Drury and of Bell and of Myers. And he seems like he's playing the right guy, playing the hot hand. And Myers has been terrific, especially defensively at first base.
Now, not everything is peaches and cream here because we're going into this Friday game, and the Padres got a problem with their pitching staff. I think it's a bigger problem than anybody is letting on. We got Blake Snell, Jekyll, and Hyde. What happens? Good start, bad start. Good start, huge pitch count doesn't get through the third or fourth inning. I'm not sure which Blake Snell is going to show up against the Dodgers on Friday night. That's a big issue. Now, they do have a wild card in the equation because they got multiples of starting pitching. This might be a Blake Snell, Sean Manaea setup on Friday. If Snell puts a lot of guys on base and runs a pitch count into the 80s in the third inning, he'll be out.
Yeah, he will.
And they'll go to Manaea. Now, Manaea has been Jekyll and Hyde too. He's had a couple of good starts at the tail end, but you never quite know right now what you're going to get from him. Now, he is rested. And when he's had extra rest, I think he's come back and he's really pitched on the edge. So that's the big issue there. Now, from the Dodgers' perspective, I'll be very honest with you. I think the Padres are not only in their head and on their body, and they're in their mind, and they're on their pitching staff. Now the Dodgers have got pitching problems because we saw Julio Urias and we saw Kershaw, who struggled a little bit, but he's vintage Kershaw. Now the Dodgers go to the third starter, and it's Tony Gonsolin, who's been on the disabled list since mid-August with a forearm problem. He's only had one outing since then. They don't know how many innings they're going to get from Gonsolin. That becomes an issue. Now, they got a wild card, left-hander Andrew Haney, who had been part of that rotation most of the season. He had fought through some injuries. He's healthy. If Gonsolin gets into hot water, I can see the Dodgers going to get Andrew Haney and putting him into the mix. And then the third guy in the equation, and he's going to show up in the series yet, we don't know how long he goes, is Dustin May, the flamethrower who spent a year rehabbing the shoulder, then had a bit of a back issue in August. He's back, he's ready, and he can pitch. The weirdest part of the whole Dodger negotiations, when they came up with the final guys on the roster, they left Craig Kimbrell off because he's been so erratic as a closer. So Dave Roberts has got a whole pile of questions as it relates to his pitching. So interesting to watch the Dodger dugout, just like we're going to watch the Padre dugout. If these two starters get in trouble, how quick do they go to the hook and go to the next man up, be it Andrew Haney or possibly Sean Manaea?
Yeah, I mean, Gonsolin, they're saying maybe he can get 2 innings, maybe 3 on Friday night. But how about Blake Trinan? I mean, they trotted him out last night. He is not the same Blake Trinan. No. And that's who Cronenworth hit the bomb off of. So yeah, you were talking earlier, like a few weeks ago, about the challenges with the Dodger bullpen. It's for real. And the national media are talking a lot about how no one knows their role. Am I a 6th inning guy, an 8th inning guy? There's really no established closer since Kimbrell's not there. So Dave Roberts has got some management he's got to handle.
Also, what do the Dodgers do with the bottom half of their batting order? They got a lot of guys hitting 167. I mean, Justin Turner, $167. Cody Bellinger, who just has lost his ability to hit, he's hitting 167. Austin Barnes, 0.00. Trace Thompson, 0.00. I think it's going to be a different batting order for the Dodgers on Friday night against Blake Snell. The Padres, everybody is contributing right now. So I think the most unique aspect to what we're going to see Friday, Saturday, at least at Petco Park, is the pitching staff and the strength in numbers. I'm not going to say it's going to be a bullpen day, but they got the arms in reserve. Only concern I have with the Padres is they've used that bullpen a lot. And you're asking these guys to come back and pitch a third time in maybe a 4-day window, whereas the Dodgers got those healthy starters who've been sitting there who can probably give them more valuable innings. It's going to be fun. And at the end of the day, the Padres are no longer scared of the Dodgers. And I think the Dodgers have to be scared because the Padres fought back in the first game, even though they lost. And then the Padres came back and won game 2. So now it's a best-of-3 series. Don't you love playoff baseball? Oh,
it's awesome. I mean, last night was terrific, and we get the goose on the fields. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff going on. But Petco is going to be red hot on Friday night.
Gaslamp Quarter, the place to be.